Hey guys, thank you so much for coming to the first Masterclass of the year in our new building. We're really excited today to welcome Rue Johnson, who's actually only going to be in Denver for a few more days, but has been a huge part of the music industry here, worked with loads of bands, artists, and lots of work around advocacy and promoting of industry and individuals. And I'm going to let her spend most of her time talking because she's got loads to share with you. But please really enjoy the Masterclass and have lots of questions ready for the end. And I'd like to welcome Rue.
I just feel so comfortable. I was like, I'm gonna sit down. Should I move this out of the way?
Yeah.
All right. Well, first and foremost, I'm really honored to be here to talk with you about my experience of working in the music industry in Denver, and also just being a person who loves music and who loves art, and in general loves the idea of coming up with an idea and kind of taking it to the next level and seeing it come to fruition, which I think all of us can kind of attest to. When you think of something and then you work so hard and you see it kind of living and breathing in front of you, that's like, you know, as much reward as you can possibly get. So I'm really honored and grateful to be here to talk about my experience, so thank you. Clap for that. Clap for the passion, feel good about it. So I just wrote these notes here just for myself, you know, so I can kind of remember where to go in this conversation because, and this kind of segues into the introduction, I'm a writer. I'm an observer. I like to hear perspectives. I like to take what I see in front of me and turn it into something tangible that proves that I was there. And so as a result of that, most writers, we can get a little like talkative, you know? We can like trail off, and I'm gonna tell you guys all about the first time I ever heard a Fuji song. You know, it can just get really long in the tooth. So I wrote these notes here for myself and also for you. So first of all, when I was asked to talk about like surviving the mile high, I thought for a second that it was the perfect timing for me to speak on this subject because I am leaving this city after having lived here for about 12 years. And so my experience of living in Denver has solely shaped me as an artist, as a creator, and I know that it will greatly impact the work that I am going on to do, which I'll talk a little bit more about. So to just kind of give you some history, I moved to Colorado in 2007, and I'm a politician. I love politics, I love diplomacy, I love policy, I love figuring out how things work and organizing people around them. And so that is what initially brought me to Colorado, as I was working in politics. And I found that I just got really good at understanding the perspective of the people I was asked to organize. And so that kind of reminded me that I am a writer, you know? And so, not like, you know, something that people just grabbed off the wall and it just happened to stick. Like hip hop has always been the culture. And in particular, I didn't have to be as, you know, pretty and refined and quiet as people would have probably preferred that I was in order to be effective, right? So I was like elbowing all the boys in the face and eating their lunches and just killing it. You know, I was like, I want this show and that show and these people, we want to do this. And I don't know, it worked. And I found that I was meeting the mission that I needed to meet when I was seeing artists that I had worked with from like when they were, you know, couldn't even get Jesus Christ on the phone to book them for a show. And we're seeing them like selling out their own shows, selling out the Bluebird, selling out the Gothic, doing all of these different things. We were producing shows. I sold out the Bluebird like 4 different times. Like I have zero idea how that happened. I just woke up, did it, right? That's not true. Everything is a formula. I actually know exactly how we did it. And I realized that, and by this time, I mean, I had been living in Denver for 10 years. And so I was really able to take my company and provide services for my community in a way that I think will live on. And so now kind of my next step of how I'm getting to sort of my, you know, well, I'll know that I made it when certain things happen, and I'm on that path. So this is where the pipeline comes in, and I'm off to DC. So I'm going to DC. I'm moving to DC in like a couple of days, And what I'll be doing there is working on the National Cannabis Festival. So for me, like, I'm not a jack of all trades. Sometimes people say like, oh, what does Rue do? And some people jokingly say, oh, she does everything. Like, that's not true. I don't do everything. I do like a couple of things, and they cross a span of like multiple subjects, but I only do a couple of things. I am not an artist manager. I don't do that. I don't babysit artists. I don't play with any of that. I'm not a booking agent. I'm not a PR consultant. People like to say that. And they're like, oh, she's a PR consultant. That's not true. But who I am, I'm a strategist. I'm a power broker, okay? I broker influence. You want something to be one way and it's the other way, you call me. You need to use the bazooka to kill the housefly, you call me. You can't get anybody to care about your music or your movement, you call me. And it's not because I have all the answers. I do not have all the answers. But what I'm really good at is understanding perspective. And that comes from my history and working in politics, and I'm taking that perspective and now flipping what I love, which is music and politics and marijuana. Can I say that? And we're I already said it. And I'm changing the game one step at a time, and I'm doing that by finding out what people like and bringing lots of people into the space to offer them an opportunity to change their environments. And so I'm really excited to move to DC and take everything that I've learned in Denver and kind of flipping it to the next level. So that was my quick 101 run through of my particular, I guess those are like the bullet points that I want to go over, and then we'll kind of poke holes in those based on time and based on questions that you guys have. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else?
Do you have any advice for approaching venues if you ever want to play there? What's the best way to deliver yourself?
That's a really great question. Did everyone hear his question? It was, how can you present yourself to venues if you want to play shows at those venues? And the best thing to do is to have a plan. So if you want to play shows, say you want to play at Cervantes in the ballroom, the first thing you need, so how to kill the game 101, in order to take bold, calculated steps, you must first know where you're going. In order to take bold, calculated steps, you must first know where you're going. So you want to play shows at venues. So the first thing I would do is make a list of the venues that you want to play. So we'll use Cervantes as an example because that's just the one that's in my mind. So if you want to play Cervantes Masterpiece Ballroom, everybody familiar with Cervantes? You know where it is in 5 Points? Cool. So formulas. I'm a politician. I think about how many votes do you need to win? That's how many people I think, how many people do I need to get into this venue? So if Cervantes Masterpiece Ballroom holds 1,100 people, and it does hold 1,100 people, then you better be a band worth your salt to sell close to that amount of tickets, okay? So that's what they care about. They want to know that they're going to turn the lights on for you and that you are going to make it worth their while to have their venue open to you. There's some cheat codes for sure. So having someone like me, I can get whatever I want in this town whenever I want it. And that's because I've completely proven that I'm good for it, you know? So if I vouch for you and I say this guy plays a mean underwater basket weaving whatever, you better show up with all your baskets and play the hell out of that venue. So those are some cheat codes, you know? I think that being involved in programs like this, where you can interact with other people who are doing music, is really important. I think that knowing exactly what you want to do, some people just want to play shows, they don't really know. They want to open for freaking 21 Savage. People come to my office every day, they're like, how do I get that? And it'll be like Lil Wayne, and I'm like, come on, man, give me a freaking break. Yeah. So you have to know how to play to your strengths. And if you want to play shows in this town, you got to get out ahead of it, and you have to know that you can sell some tickets. And artists don't really like to hear that, but that's the truth, because Denver is cracking right now. There are so many musicians, so many new people, so many venues popping up that you have to really know how to stand out. So the first thing you need to know is if you have a fan base, build that fan base, and then you can approach the big leagues. Does that answer your question? Will change. We do a lot of studies and stuff on my arts advocacy side. We do a lot of studies around how people consider the music industry in Denver, and I really think that this is going to change, because the truth of it is just that there's no history of it, there's no precedence. But I do believe that the bigger the population gets here, I think the more venues and the more music related things happen. Within 10 years, we're gonna see a lot more publishing, a lot more entertainment lawyers, and Denver will become a stronghold, just like Chicago. You know, if you think about what's happened in the music industry in Chicago, now sure, you think about artists from Chicago on a hip hop level, who do you think about? Kanye, who? Chance the Rapper, Vic Mensa, I was gonna say Lupe Fiasco, and I'm not even a Lupe Fiasco fan. That's why I was just gonna bring it up, because I feel like I needed to. But Chief Keef, you know, the Chicago profile has drastically risen over the past 5 to 6 years, and it's because of these kind of artists and their perspectives. Now, do I think you need to leave Denver if you're gonna be a serious musician? I think that you have to. You can't leave Denver if you're going to be a serious musician if you haven't exhausted all of your resources here. Now, this is where we get to Trev Rich. So are you guys familiar with Trev Rich? So a lot of people know about Trev Rich because he's hands down the most successful hip hop artist currently existing in the city. And that is because, and I say that as someone, I know how it sounds, because I work with him and like we have the same birthday, so I have like a very strong connection to him, we're friends. But the truth is that Trev has played the pipeline. What is the pipeline? The pipeline is essentially a designed platform with a system of support and obstacles and good things and bad things and whatever that you will go down as an artist to meet a particular goal. And so in Denver, the pipeline looks like this. You want to play out all your resources in Denver, you have to start small. You got to play Lost Lake, then you got to play the Glamour Lounge. And then if you really knock it out of the park with those places, then you can play the Bluebird. Then if you really kill it, then you can play the Gothic. And then if you kill it at the Gothic, you can play the Ogden. So this is the kind of the pattern, right? So if you cannot sell out 550 seats at the Bluebird, there's no way you're going to go play Webster Hall, RIP, Webster Hall in New York City, right? So that's why people want to leave Denver, because they can't figure out how to get into the pipeline, and they're like, well, I'm just gonna go to Los Angeles and like wait tables, and then like Puffy's gonna come inside and see me, and then I'm gonna be raised. Like, it don't work like that. It does not work like that. It will never work like that, ever again. So if you can't exhaust the resources in where you are, then you're not gonna necessarily be able to do that in other places. So I don't think you have to leave Denver, especially because if you're from here, you can be comfortable here, you have some resources, you can you know how things work. I don't necessarily think that you need to leave here to be successful unless you have totally conquered everything here that you can do. People come all the time, they're like, well, I want to get in Complex magazine and my rap is good enough for that. And it's like, well, if Westward doesn't care about your music, what do you want me to do, kid? Some of these people, I have to tell them, like, you have no shot. You don't have the patience to go through the pipeline, okay? So I'm not sure what to tell you. I don't know Quincy Jones, and even if I did, I don't know that I could convince Quincy freaking Jones to get behind this. You know? You also have to be realistic. Like, you can't just think you're gonna jump out the window and, like, all of a sudden be Lil Pump. I like Lil Pump. No offense. But that was kind of an overnight thing. Other questions?
I got two.
Go.
Can you further define the stops along the pipeline? And the second part is, can you talk about where artists get stuck?
Did everyone hear his question? The stops along the pipeline and where people get stuck. So the pipeline really is as long as you want to make it. So the stops along the pipeline really depend on what it is you're trying to do. So if we use this as an example, if this was like a real class, I would be like scribbling all over the board, so I'll try to just explain it to you. So if you're an artist, for example, that you want to tour, if you want to be an independent artist, I recommend that's the direction that you go, particularly if you live in Denver, because there's tons of resources like the IM Tour Grant that you can apply for. They'll pay for you to tour. Denver is cool. Other cities don't have that. Anyway, if you're an artist who wants to tour and you want to be independent and you want to, just basically play lots of shows and that's how you want to make your money, then the stops along that kind of pipeline will be, one, you have to build up a really good fan base and you have to have a really strong internet presence, because we all live on the internet, that's the truth. You have to know who's playing your music and where they live. So SoundCloud, everyone wants to talk shit, or can I say that?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, cool, I'm sorry. Everyone wants to talk shit about SoundCloud rappers, and it's like, listen, if you know how to use SoundCloud, the one thing you want to do is be a SoundCloud rapper. Why? Because SoundCloud tells you everything that you need to know for free. Who's listening to your music, where they live, how old they are, how many times they played your song, the songs that they played that are similar to the music that you played, how many times they liked and followed your profile, the profiles that they follow that are similar to your profile. I could go on and on. So if you're a SoundCloud rapper, you gotta pull that data, and I don't care if you've never been to East Jesus, Kansas City, but if 500 people from East Jesus, Kansas City are playing your music, guess where you're gonna tour, kiddo? You're going to Kansas City. You're up, all right? So people don't really like to hear that because they think that it's time to just like go to Miami and like yell around with Rick Ross. It happens all the time. Artists move to Los Angeles and they think that they've made it, and then they're back wherever they were because they haven't played the pipeline. They weren't smart about where people are listening to their music and how they are consuming their music. So infrastructure, if you want to play shows, you got to know where you're going to go and know who's listening to your stuff. Outside of that, the next part of that pipeline would be exposure. So it's not the same thing. When artists are in the studio, and you guys know this because you have all these studios here, when you're in the studio, you're perfecting a moment. When you're on stage, you're creating a moment. So that shit could sound great over there, and then you get on stage and you're just like hanging out, standing there, you know? You have to know how to match your energy to what it is that you actually want to put out. So make sure that your shows are good so that it sticks with people. So we could go on and on about that, but where artists tend to get stuck, which is the more important question, because we could talk about success all day long, but most of us know what it really feels like to be stuck, right? Artists get stuck on the pipeline when their first plan doesn't work out. That's the first thing all the time. All the time, I see it all the time. I put out this great album. I loved it, I put it out. Now, I didn't write press releases or like do any real work around it, but I put it out on the internet. And like Lil Wayne didn't listen to my song, and now I'm just heartbroken. Artists they get defeated so quickly because they don't know how to play the long game. So I think that when it comes to like exposure, artists get really stuck. I think that they also get stuck in the rat race. So where the pipeline can kind of work like against you is if you get trapped in your like mini levels of success and you just keep going around and around and around and keep getting the exact same success. I can be an example of that. I'm a very large fish in a very tiny pond. You know, everyone knows me, everyone knows me. I'm killing it, I'm in the newspaper, whatever. I'm kind of a reluctant socialite, like I'm not really that into the public persona that I have, but people think that it is like really amazing. But then they don't see that it's like midnight and I'm in the grocery store trying to buy hot sauce and someone's trying to give me their mixtape, okay? So I can get easily stuck in just going around and around and around and just like continuing to do the same things that I've done. But it doesn't serve me in the longevity of where I'm going to get to the end of my pipeline, which, if you really want to know, I'm gonna work with Drake and I also wanna work for Coachella. So in order to get down there, I have to like stop, you know, whatever, get over myself and get out there and get in the game. Artists get really stuck with that. They don't really want to compete because, you know, their mom likes their stuff and so they think that everyone should like it. I don't know, no offense against anyone's mom's music taste. How much time do we have?
10 minutes.
Perfect. More questions? Yeah.
What you do really well is you're really able to articulate clearly what your offer is, what you're good at, and what you're passionate about. And I think it's really easy to start out by saying what you're not good at. And it's
Absolutely.
really interesting about how you get to that point where you're really clear about I can do loads of things. I've got loads of skills and I've got loads of knowledge, but I'm actually also really clear what my offer is. And I'm just interested, how did you kind of come to that point where you were able so clearly to say this is what I do and this is what I'm good at?
That's a great question. Does everyone understand that question? You know, I found out what I was good at because I made a gang of mistakes at what I wasn't good at. And that sounds like really like, you know, spelling bee type. That sounds like my like collegiate side. But the truth really is that I'm good at like things across the board that are like similar. So I am a really, really, really good listener. I can like sit down and hear your perspective and really listen, be active. And then I'm also like charismatic and funny, and I have a really great sense of humor, and I can, you know, on and on and on. I can say great things about myself. But really, when I found out that I was really good at writing, what that meant to me is that I was good at understanding people. And so then if I was good at understanding people, I could understand like how to help people. And if I understood how to help people, I could figure out how to make an impact. If I figured out how to make an impact, then I could figure out how to like take my stuff to the next level too. So I just kind of found my like common denominator and just like wove it all the way around. Now, I'm not like, people think that I should be good at certain things that I'm not like that good at. So, and then they kind of want to put me in these boxes. So all the time I get asked all the time, like, you should be an artist manager. And because I really know what an artist manager does, I know that I'm not good at that, because I'm not good at like letting someone else kind of like build a plan that I don't really think works, you know? Like, I work well on the back end. I also don't want to be out there negotiating for artists, because that's not really my strong suit. I know what I know how to present it, and that's all I got. And so I was able to make a lot of mistakes. And even like with shows and stuff, like I tried to produce a fashion show in 2000, this is maybe 2013. I had this, does anyone know who Marina Abramovic is? So I love her, and I was like, I want to produce a fashion show that like, you know, is like in their faces. So important, because Steve Stout taught us how to brand, okay? So people are making money these days because of branding, not because we're all buying their CDs, right? So Steve Stout figured out how to make Jay-Z like an actual household name. So he got him the Reebok deal, the S. Carters. This was a quadrillion years ago, okay? But look it up. The Tanning of America. Steve Stout talks about if you can take the culture of something and insert it into white America, into the buying market, it doesn't matter what you're selling them. That's why 50 Cent said that he sold vitamin water to soccer moms, and that's the truth. 50 Cent, he got shot 9 times, he's like bitching anyone out who will listen, and vitamin water drinking soccer moms are buying his product because he figured out how to brand it in such a fashion that it didn't really matter who was like the forefront, it mattered who was actually buying it. So the Tanning of America is really important, because that is so far ahead of its time, and that's actually how everyone's making money these days. Those are my 2 favorites.
Hi, my
Hi.
name is Mariah.
Hi, Mariah.
So hearing like your story and successes is really inspiring. Like, I'm just a very inspired person. But I think as an artist, I think a lot of times we can experience a lot of doubts and pitfalls and just give up a lot of the times. So were there ever times, I think it's also inspiring to hear people's struggles. So like, was there ever a time where you struggled and you were like, I can't do this anymore, this isn't for me, and like, how did you overcome that?
Sure, that's a great question. Thank you for asking, because like, I talk about my struggles a lot. Like, if you follow me on the internet, sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't today, you know, because people think, and pardon the expression, but it's one that people think that my job is just like champagne and blowjobs, you know? They think they see me hanging out backstage with Anderson .Paak, you know, I'm backstage hanging out and shopping with Anderson .Paak or whatever. People think my life is like that, but then they don't see the 6 hours that I'm like sitting in the office working on one deal, or they don't see like when something crazy happens and like whoever doesn't show up and we're scrambling to make something happen. I've wanted to quit many times. Tons of times, I can't even tell you. But the only problem is I work for myself, so it's kind of like, I don't know, you know? So many times I was like, I'm gonna quit and go work at the library because I can't with this music industry anymore. I experienced a lot of misogyny and patriarchy, and that was really difficult for me because I thought that I was above that because I wasn't an artist, and so I felt like I was like, didn't have to experience that. And like last year I had a really hard time because the rappers kind of in town like decided they wanted to have some kind of like uprising against me for some reason. They were mad that I wasn't booking them on shows. They were mad they weren't getting press. They thought for some reason that I stood in the way of that. And so I was just like making people walk the plank like daily, you know? And it was exhausting and it totally ruined my morale and I couldn't handle it anymore. And I accepted a like writing workshop position and I went to France for 3 months last year. So I'm not gonna tell you that you don't wanna quit or that I haven't wanted to quit or that there weren't times when I was just like, I'm done. You guys take your freaking rap and get him and her and everybody out of my office. So many times. But to take it back to my original point, like this is like actually my destiny. That's the only problem with quitting, is that it's actually my destiny. It's directly what I'm supposed to be doing, and I know that every single day when I get up, even through the struggles, because on my best days, you don't love the music industry more than me, and on my worst days, you don't hate the music industry more than me. So that's the only reason why I haven't quit, and that's also why I'm very open about like the struggles that I have during days when it's like really difficult to get this work done. But then there's days when like, you know, the Broncos won the Super Bowl and we brought all of them and Rick Ross like out. And I remember standing there and being like, I didn't watch one football game this year, but somehow I'm seeing like the greatest celebration of my life. And that was when I was like, it's champagne time in the green room, you know? And so those times that have been hard have always outweighed more of the times that were tough. And so I hear you, and I'm really, really with you on those times where it's difficult. But if you're doing what you're supposed to do, you kind of got to keep doing it forever. It's the only problem. A last question?
Yeah, that's one.
Okay.
So, are there any artists that you've been listening to that are from Denver that we should check out, or anything that interests you right now?
Yes. I love little baby Trace Chapman. He goes by Trace Chapman, not Tracy Chapman, not like Fast Car, Trace Chapman. Poor guy. He's gonna have to change his name. He doesn't want to hear that. He's gonna have to change his name. I love Trace Chapman. I love Trev Rich. He has a big show at the Ogden in November that I'm really excited about. I didn't want to put him on the spot, but DNA is here. We've been becoming friends, and I've been listening to his music and watching his. He kills it on the visual level. I think your videos are probably better than everyone else's right now. Ray Reed is my favorite performer, you know, and then AP is my favorite writer, because AP talks about like, you know, drug rap. Not really like that. So there's those cats. And to be honest, I wish I could tell you there were more girls. I wish I could be able to spit out like more women who are in hip hop. And I hope that the next time I get asked this question, I can name more than just those folks. So thank you.
Guys, I just want to say thank you again. That was honestly one of the most honest, generous, thought-provoking and valuable masterclasses we've ever had here. So I really appreciate you fitting this in before you disappear to new adventures. Thanks to the students for being here, and also thank you to all our guests who've joined us today. Welcome to Dime Denver, and I hope that we see you again at future events. But once again, massive round of applause for you. That was amazing.